All right. Welcome. I am Dr. Latoya Davis, and welcome to Soul Wisdom Chat. Sorry, I've created a new setup and I'm still trying to get used to it. So, here at Soul Wisdom Chat, we really just have the ability to kind of talk about all things spiritual, be it ancestral, intuition, um, Akashic Records, other forms of divination. Pretty much you name it, we can talk about it. And sometimes I have pre identified topics, and sometimes it's just open chat. So tonight I am actually coming on to talk about the Akashic Records. Um, so if you are new to me, I am an Akashic Records master. I have been reading the Akashic Records and teaching others how to read the Akashic Records for themselves and other people. And I promote really this idea of using the Akashic Records to um, empower yourself, right? I really believe with everything in me that we have the innate ability to um, take control of our lives. And one of the ways that we can do that for me is by accessing the Akashic Records. So when you are here, if you're here, you can say hi. I realize though my camera is far and I can't see, but I will try to see names as they pop up and see messages in the chat. All right. So I just wanted to hop on really quickly tonight and talk about just kind of a big picture overview of the Akashic Records and then my personal journey or kind of story with the Akashic Records. Okay. So again, if you don't know me, I have had a very long history or varied history as it relates to I would say spirituality or things that are kind of dealing in the metaphysical realm. I've started maybe about 20 years ago, um, moving out of, well, more than 20 years ago, moving out of traditional religion ideas and concepts and kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to do and where I wanted to be and all of those things. And around 1999 or 2000, ended up kind of on the path of African traditional religion, first landing in Orisha and then moving into Palo. Later, originally was Lukumi and then later transitioning into Asheshe. So kind of all of those things. And then from there, started kind of studying occultism um, and moved into metaphysical stuff and more ideas of kind of spiritualism. So I've really done a lot, or I'm not going to say I've done it all, but I've really done a lot. And in all of those things, I think one of the things that has been a blessing for me and to me is that I've always believed that um, we all have the ability to access source, right? However you perceive source to be. Some people call it God. Some people say Odumare. Some people will say Tata Sen. Whatever you say, right? I believe that we all have the innate ability to access and communicate with source. And because of that, I struggled um, with paradigms or with situations where there was a structure set up that seemed to not support that idea for myself, right? And because also I've been for my whole life, right, really in tune with kind of being able to connect with and receive kind of, I would say, extrasensory information, right? As a child, didn't know what to call it or how to place it. It was just uncomfortable, but I knew that I always had the ability to perceive information other than, some spiritual leader or something telling it to me, right? So my trajectory of kind of finding my place was really about honoring the thing that was inside of me that was pushing me forward. Um, Fast forward, was comfortable, was very happy in my place, right, in my religious practices and all of that. I'm an excellent diviner, right? So it wasn't that I was looking for something there. Have excellent godparents, so I wasn't looking for something there. So I really wasn't looking for anything out of dissatisfaction when I stumbled upon the Akashic Records. Okay, just so happened that in my friend group, One person was like, "Oh, I got this thing, this Akashic record reading." Didn't really know what it was, and somebody else said they got it, and somebody else got it. And when somebody says something and they recommend someone else, I mean, they recommended them, you kind of all try it out. So I went and I had this reading and didn't really know what to expect. I don't even think I like Googled it ahead of time, right? To really understand what I was getting or what the reading was going to be about. I was really just going into the experience off of the GP, right? Of my sister friends who I trusted and respected. And have this reading, and the information that the lady is giving me is like literally blowing my mind, right, while I'm sitting there in the reading. But it was blowing my mind for a multitude of reasons. One, I had never considered myself outside of this particular incarnation of myself, right? I know that we might think about, we talk about life after death, or we talk about reincarnation. But I realized that I had never actually considered what all of those previous versions of me had done or had been, or how those things contributed to me in this moment, right? And so as she's talking, she's giving me all of this information about things from past lives. And the thing that was making it trippy, right? For the lack of a better word right now, the thing that was making it trippy was it was like these skill sets and these things that she was bringing in from these past experiences were things that I was drawn to in this life, right? Without really knowing why, or not even that I was drawn to, but that I was good at, right? So I study herbalism. I study crystals. Now I do sound healing, but like all of these things. And so she's talking about all of this stuff and like my ability to work with the earth and to have plants. And, I'm a girl from Miami, right? So we were not out there farming and growing things in Miami. But I absolutely loved herbs, right? And understanding herbs and how to use them, and just incorporate them, right? And one of my friends once said to me, he said, "I'm convinced that you don't um, you don't like plants, but they like you," meaning that like they just really tend to do well, right, for me. And so back to the story. So she's telling me all of this stuff, right? And I'm like, gosh. And some of the stuff is just like really far out, like because again, my mind had never conceived of a time past the now, right? And the other thing that was happening was I was going through a divorce, or at that time it was really a separation, but we were getting divorced, and I was having problems, or really trying to come to grips or terms with some of the things that were kind of coming up and unraveling, right, and needing to make peace so that I could move forward clearly, cleanly, and not do that again, right? And so she was able to really give me insight around that in that process. So ended that first reading and was like, wow, that was great. Right. So again, remember, I am in, I still have my babalao. I have my tata, like, so I have all of these things for myself, right? I'm still actively doing work for others through these systems. So again, it's not a thing of I was dissatisfied and I didn't even know what I was looking for. But once I found it, my mind was blown, right? Because it introduced all of these things. So that sent me down the rabbit hole of like trying to understand what the Akashic records were and all of this stuff. Fast forward, got another reading, needed some work done based on the reading, and couldn't find anybody to do it at a price point that I was able to afford at that time. And so that sent me on the quest of trying to figure out how to do it myself. And so now here we are, many years later. I have learned, studied, taught, and certified people to teach the Akashic Records. So, what are the Akashic Records? The Akashic Records are an energetic field, an actual energetic field that has been proven, that has been studied, that has been documented, that has existed before our, kind of new buzzword idea of this Akashic record, right? It has existed for a really long time, but it is an actual energetic field. And in this field, all things exist, right? Past, present, and future possibilities exist in the Akashic Records. So, one of the things that's really important to understand when you are approaching or doing any type of work is in the Akashic Record is understanding that the soul is a continuous um, energy form, right? The aspect in me that is my physical self that you see right now, right, that I can touch right now is temporary, but the soul aspect of me is continuous and has been continuous since the first thought of this particular, soul form existed. And although the physical embodiment of this particular soul has died and transitioned and been multiple things over eons, the knowing, the knowledge, the wisdom of that soul has never ceased, right? And why is that? Because we are all energy. Everything in the world is energy, and we know from science, right, that energy cannot be destroyed, right? So once it exists, it always exists, right? It can change form, it can change shape, but the energy itself always exists. And so that's what the soul does. We shift, we change form, we come back, we die, we might have a different experience, but the soul is always present. And by tapping into this energetic field, we are able to access all of that information that the soul has kind of stored, right? So it's the soul's memory system. It's more than that, but it is a way to access the soul's memory system. Okay, so we are able to go into the Akashic record to really get what I consider a soul level understanding of ourself. Now, how does that help us? That helps us because most times when we are living our day-to-day life, right, by the time we're adults, we have removed ourselves so far from our true self. Why has this happened? This has happened from hurt, past hurts or traumas. This has happened from conditioning, right, from our parents raising us, right, telling us what we can't do, how we can't do it, when we should go, what, right? So we've created boxes for ourselves based on other people's expectations, other people's experiences, our interpretation of experiences, right? And particularly our interpretation of experiences as children. And so, as children, sometimes we see things very much like this, right? Just because we don't have the emotional capacity to understand things in a particular way, we don't understand nuance, right? And so some things can trigger us and it kind of gets locked in or lodged in, right? And so all of those things determine how we are now as adults, and those things limit sometimes how we show up, right? And so why I love the Akashic records is because it allows you to get back to that true version of yourself without judgment, right? I'm going to say it without judgment. So one of the things in the tenets of the Akashic records is that you were able to get a soul level view without judgment. All information that comes through the realm of the Akash and the Akashic records comes from the space of love. Understanding that as a soul, you are divinely created. You are perfect, right? You are created with purpose and the way that you are supposed to be, right? And the only thing that we need to do is sometimes uncover, move things out of the way, clear stuff up so that we can get back to the true nature of ourselves. But in order to do that, sometimes we have to understand the why we made those choices, right? Why are we in this particular condition? Why did we choose this relationship over that relationship? Why is this pattern continuing to happen? And so we are able to get all of that information through the Akashic records. All right. The other thing that happens in the Akashic records, so I said in this video, we're going to talk about the who, the what, the why. So the other thing that happens in the Akashic record is that we are able to get guidance, right? So we talked about kind of understanding ourselves at soul level, but we're also able to get guidance because remember, the Akashic records hold every past, present, and future possibility. Okay. And so because of that, And because it has this understanding of us at soul level, we are able to get information to really help kind of guide us as we start to move forward or look forward. And what I like to say is lead a life of joy, ease, and abundance. Um, Questions that I often get about the Akashic Records are, is it spiritual, or do you have to be psychic, or do you need some type of special gift? All of these things are general questions that come up. The answer is no, right? I mentioned that it is an energetic field. So it is not spiritual. It does not belong to one particular religion or one particular form of faith or spirituality, right? It is open and available to everyone. And because it's open and available to everyone, that means you also don't need any type of special, preordained gift to be able to access it. And the reality is we all have gifts. We all have kind of those special that ability to tap in and to be able to receive information. We just sometimes don't trust it, but we all have that ability. And so by working in the Akashic Record, we also are able to activate, strengthen, and clear out some of that. I like to call it static, right? Clear out some of the static that doesn't actually allow us to be able to see, hear, feel, think, or know as clearly as we should. Okay. So no, you do not need to belong to a particular religion, faith, spiritual tradition, concept, idea to be able to access the Akashic Records or to be effective in the Akashic Records. I have done Akashic Record readings for pastors. I had one pastor who started sending me people from his congregation, right? So I've done pastors, I've done Orisha priests, I've done people in the Akan tradition, I've done people who were just searching, people who aren't a part of any kind of other organized religion, right? So the Akashic Records are available to everyone. And then as far as the ability of being able to see, I've had workshops. So I offer live classes, as well as e-courses to teach the Akashic Records. And in my live classes, again, I've had virtual live, sorry. And in those classes, I've had, again, the gamut, right? I've had people who are seasoned in other forms of, kind of being able to gather and connect with spirit and receive information. And I've had people who are like, you know what? I don't know what this is. I'm called to it. Let's see what we can do. And I've been able to be successful with all walks of people, right? Being able to access their records and get information and receive information. Now, just like everything, the more you practice it, the better you are at it, right? So, somebody jumping in on day one isn't going to get the same level of information that I get, right? Or someone who has been doing this type of work for a long time. But the beautiful thing about the Akashic Records is they meet you where you are. All right. So that is my short, let me make sure who, what, where, and then a bit about my journey. So I hope that you were able to get a little bit of understanding tonight from the Akashic Records. Again, I am Dr. Latoya Davis, the owner of Chi Healing Institute. I offer classes in the Akashic Records. I offer online courses that you can take whenever you want at your convenience. And I offer live virtual classes. So I have a live virtual workshop coming up on December 11th and 12th. It's a 2-day workshop. It's very interactive. We go in, I do an attunement to attune you to the energy of the Akashic Records, which essentially just makes it a little bit easier for you to access the records, right? The way that I like to think about the records, or the way that I frame the records when I talk about it, is imagine a really big mansion, right, with lots of doors and rooms, and you can go through any door or room, right? And just like if you went into someone's house, depending on the door that you went in, kind of determined what you saw when you went into the door, when you stepped into the house. So the Akashic Records were like that. Thousands of doors, thousands of ways to enter, right? Because there's so much information. And so what the attunement does is just really kind of helps to pinpoint and focus you so that you are accessing it through a point that will give you clarity, that will give you guidance, that will really give you the information that you need in the way that's clear. That's the purpose of the attunement. So we do an attunement process, and in the context of the class, you get to practice a lot, right? So I teach you all about opening the records in a safe way, closing the records, how to ask questions, what questions are appropriate, how to pose questions properly, different ways to use the records, and then we practice. Right, you practice opening your own records. On day 2, we talk about how to open the records for others, and you get feedback that way. And I'm right there to kind of troubleshoot and help navigate the class, right? So that's happening. I will drop the link in the description if you're interested in that. And like, follow, share, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.